All right, stoked to have you on the show today. Could you please tell me about your serial entrepreneurship, the tough times that you had to endure, and what is the feeling right now? Do you feel accomplished, or there's like plenty more that's on your mind, like milestones you want to achieve?
Okay, good question. I've got to be careful how I answer this. One of it is you stressed on the point serial, so it came across like I'm a serial killer that you're interviewing. You're a journalist interviewing a serial killer. Second thing is my family could be watching it, especially the missus. So, if I really share with you what's in my head, she's going to complain and she'll have a fight with me because she says this could be the last stint and she wants me to retire, right? So let's start with that. Let's keep that in mind and let's start with that. The serial entrepreneurialism, pretty much, I just came across that term recently. But if you asked me, I've always wanted to do something for myself. Always wasn't too much of a, play by the rule book kind of guy. So I don't like rules, except when I play sports. So I played hockey and cricket a lot. So that's the only place where I follow rules as much as I can. At the age of 13 is where I kind of started my first sort of business, whereby I grew up in New Zealand and, we used to have this thing called car boot sale or garage sale. What it means is you go around and look at all the stuff that you don't need at home, all the sort of old things, and then put them together and sell it from your garage or at the boot of your car. So people will come and buy it and so on. That's how I started. And then all throughout uni, I used to buy and sell things. At uni, I met this really interesting guy, a good friend of mine, whom I actually met 2 weeks ago when I was in New Zealand. I call him MacGyver. If you haven't watched the MacGyver series, just Google MacGyver. He is a kind of guy that could almost do anything, he could fix anything, right? So this is that kind of guy. And, we became friends. He's a very successful businessman now in New Zealand. So he used to fix things. He used to be the man behind the scenes. I'm always a good talker, salesman. So I was the front end. So we used to, bring on toasters, microwaves, washing machines, things like that. And then ended up selling, cars. When we almost at the end of our uni days, we used to bring in broken down cars, refurbish them and sell them to the uni students.
It was in New Zealand or Australia?
That's how it all started. It's in New Zealand, man. I grew up in New Zealand. Right? So this is where it all started. After uni, moved on and, had a couple of jobs. And again, every job I've had, maybe about 3 jobs, I got fired because I was kind of too creative in what I was doing. Just to give you an example, I used to sell kitchenware, right? And I used to work for this big company that sells kitchenware, buys and sells kitchenware, where it's a European company. So they used to always send me products from Europe, leftover products, and I used to sell them in Southeast Asia. And then I found out that when they were selling kitchenware to me, they did not have a wok. In Southeast Asia, especially amongst Asians, you need a wok for frying, right? It's WOK. It's a wok. It's a big kind of, pot. So you do fried rice and things like that, right? So they did not have that piece in the range. Then I said to my boss, hey, you don't have this piece. I think you should bring it in. Otherwise, it's difficult to sell to Asian companies. So he said, no, follow the thing. We don't do that. We don't need it. You go and sell it. So what I did was I went out to China. I looked up factories, got a really good deal on woks and brought them in and sold and got many deals. And then he found out he wasn't too happy. So that's one of the examples. In the end, I business doing that myself, and we beat them. They were like globally #1, and we beat them in Southeast Asia. So that was kind of the first, I suppose, serious or big business. And I run it till today. I was even selling pots and pans just before this meeting to a client in Brunei. I'm in Brunei right now. So
Do you keep like a book as a trophy at your home?
Sultan's country. Okay, so a big non-believer in trophies
Okay.
and accolades, because I believe that I suppose it's for most people it's a kind of a affirmation of how good they are. But I always believe that the person that you've got to beat, or the company that you've got to beat, is yourself, no one else. So I don't believe in competition. I believe in the rule of abundance, because God's given a lot, and there's no need to compete, right? So because every single human has different strengths. So again, there are a couple of things that have been secret to the successful journey. Of course, one of them, the major one, is the failures, right? So you learn from the failures, and you truly learn. So that's kind of my university for business, failures, right? And the second thing is thinking that this world, there are things in abundance, so you could almost do anything you want, right? And the third thing is collaboration. I always believe in teams. I believe in people, because I've got my strengths. I know my strengths, right? So I'm a good salesman. I'm a good businessman. If you ask me to do operations, or if I get a deal, I'm a deal maker. So when I get a deal, I pass it to the guy that can execute it. And I've always been lucky enough to have partners that can execute, right? So I'm crap at executing. So working with a team with different strengths is what I love. It's what I call collaboration, which is very important. And the other thing is never die attitude. Right? So if something's not working, try it differently. Keep trying it until it works, right? And along the way, every setback, you treat it as a learning, piece of learning. So it's been quite interesting. I think, I started, I think when I was 13, crap, that was ages ago at uni, maybe mid 80s. So now it's 2023, still running businesses, still enjoy running businesses, still enjoy creating businesses. So to be exact, I'm actually an entrepreneur. I'm actually good at starting businesses, right? Firing up rockets. I'm not a good pilot the rocket. So I'm a bad CEO, right?
Okay.
CEOs are very good at execution. Good founder. I'm a good, I get in, I set up a rocket and I can launch the rocket to the moon, right? Make sure it goes there, get the funding, make sure everything is right. But I'm not the guy to fly the rocket, right? So, so that's where things have been. So right now, we've got about, I think I've got about 17 companies. I just need to check the registry. It's always changing. Mostly in the tech space, technology space, and the territory. The other thing I've enjoyed, one of the reasons were meeting new people and going to new places. I mean, these have been, kind of pillars or drivers for me to keep, launching new businesses. So we are all over Southeast Asia. So, sort of Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, where else? Philippines. So these are countries where the business is. Australia, New Zealand is also two countries where our business extends to. And, always interested in looking at the current big problem. For example, during COVID, I was stuck at home in Malaysia, 4 trips a year, 40. So during COVID for 2 years, never went anywhere. So I was stuck at home, and then, just not too happy. Not because I'm stuck at home, but, the fact that I couldn't meet people, travel to places. So looked around, and there was a big, interesting phenomena that was happening in Malaysia. I'm sure it's probably the same in many countries. Whereby a lot of people became home cooks because they can't go out and eat, right, in restaurants. So they were buying stuff from supermarket and cooking at home. Then I said to myself, well, that's interesting. Then I said to myself, let's look at how we can actually serve this home cooks, right? How can we what can we do as a business that would, provide comfort and convenience for these home cooks? At that time, as I said, even today, I have a kitchenware business. We are the largest importers of kitchenware in Southeast Asia, and we're one of the largest sellers of kitchenware. So I had a lot of stocks in the warehouse, right? So we do B2B selling, so we sell to big hypermarket, department stores, and so on. So we had a lot of stocks in the warehouse. And then I saw that lots of people were cooking at home. I also did some research. I found out that, either cookware is very cheap in marketplaces where I could crush one of the saucepans with my own hands. Cheap as chips, but shit as shit. And then you have the high end, like $500 for a wok and things like that at department stores. There was nothing for a regular person who just started to cook, something of good quality, but affordable price. So then I set up an e-commerce platform. Before that, I never knew what e-commerce was. So I did about 5 weeks immersive learning, online
How
learning.
long ago was
Set
it?
up an e-commerce store. Now it's the large. This was during COVID, mate.
Oh, wait. Okay.
March, April. The lockdown started in April. I can't remember the year. 2020? Is it 2020? Yeah, 2020. And I started the business within 5 weeks, right? Because we had the stocks. I set up an e-commerce site through a friend of mine. We started business, right? And it obviously skyrocketed year to year. I mean, it's been 3 years now. It's the largest online kitchenware store in Malaysia now, right? We've got 350 SKUs. So like that, if there is something happening in the market, the market requires a big solution. And that's when I set up a business providing solution, right? So I suppose that's the easiest way to think about it. If people are wondering, how the hell do I start a business? Go out there in the market where you live. No need to go too far, and check out and see what the trends are and what's happening, right? What's a big problem in the market that you can solve? And if you think about it that way, setting up businesses, then you create successful businesses, right? So similarly, end of last year. Oh, no, end of last year. Crap. It's 2021 in November. People were talking about this whole NFT thing. I am a crypto fan, so I bought my cryptos, my Bitcoins and Ethereum in 2016. So I've always been a crypto fan. Then, my customers started saying, big brands started saying, Khalid, I've got youngsters coming to our office 3 or 4 times a week, talking about blockchain, talking about cryptos, talking about NFTs. We don't really understand it because these guys are kind of slightly older. Okay, so so November 2021, I first heard of blockchain, NFT, and so on. So I came over to my office and I asked one of the youngsters, "Hey, what are they talking about?" So he tried to explain it, didn't understand it. Then one of my daughters got into this, into Roblox, and so she tried to explain to me, still didn't understand. Then I was thinking, I kept sort of hearing these things, kept researching, and I found a gap, right? For instance, so my kind of older friends and clients of big corporate CEOs and owners, whether it's a sports club or a supermarket or a department store or whatever, they're hearing about it, but they don't understand it. So I got some of these youngsters to come and pitch to me, saying, "So tell me what your story is." So they got really passionate about the technology, the blockchain, what chain, gas fees, this, that, the other, NFTs. You can mint them, you can have a wallet, all of that. Then I realized that the kids and the veterans, business veterans, didn't understand each other, right? So the kids didn't understand the business side of things. The businessmen didn't understand the technology side of things. So there was a gap. So I thought to myself, hey, I've got a few technology businesses, so I kind of understand it. Bottom line is, for me, technology is a catalyst for business growth and cost efficiencies. So let me come from that angle, and I set up MetaUniverse, right, which is the Web3 solutions provider for blue chip companies, right? Mm-hmm. So this is where this business came about. And now what I do is I provide business solutions using Web3 as a tool or a catalyst, right? So that means I go into a business, work out what their problem is, give you an example. Someone's got a loyalty program, or someone's looking at a loyalty program, or someone's saying, Khalid, I'm in the clinic business. I want to store records in a secure, safe manner. What can you do? Or someone like a hypermarket chain or a supermarket chain saying to me, Khalid, every year we celebrate anniversary. I want to do something different this year, right? Then I say to them, hey, do a celebration in the Metaverse. Right. So things like that. So wherever there are issues in a company, I use Web3 tools to provide the solution, and the results are to One is growth, the other is cost efficiency, right? So both ways that actually grows. It's good for the business. So right now, that's my latest baby. The first group of companies, the 16 companies I've got, we are on our path to NASDAQ. So that's one tick. You asked me about ticks in life. That's one of my bucket lists, to take a company to NASDAQ. So that's happening, inshallah. It will happen by the end of this year, Q1 next year. So the 16 companies going as one into NASDAQ. And then my last bucket list, although everyone that knows me says, Khalid, you'll never retire. But my last one on the bucket list, or the check that I want to do, is a unicorn, right? Unicorn is a $1 billion company. So that's what I'm working on. So this is the unicorn, MetaUniverse, right? This is a big unicorn right now. So we're building it to become a unicorn in the next 3 years. And after that, I'm thinking of slowing down, not really retiring, but slowing down.
Have you launched
Sorry?
This one, the unicorn, have you launched it? Is it in operation?
It's been in operation. We're actually 1 year and 1 month old. 1 year and 1 month, 13 months, right? So we've already garnered a lot of attention, only because there's no company that provides business solutions using Web3 tools, right? So that's an interesting proposition. So our clients are all blue chip companies. The interesting part is InvoZone is our tech enabler. So we've done a deal with Furkan, and Furkan is my CTO, and he's our tech enabler. So all projects that we do in terms of Web3 is exclusively powered by InvoBlocks and InvoGames. So that's our connection. That's our relationship.
Perfect. I would like to know more. How did you choose InvoZone or InvoBlocks? How did you come to this decision? Okay, this is the right way to go. I mean, you have a lot of experience.
Very good question. And I think this will give you a pay rise at the end of this when Furkan hears this. Good job. No, actually, to be truth be told, right? I mean, you guys are in Pakistan and I'm in Malaysia, so there's not much of a connection there. So a couple of things. One was the fact that Furkan's kind of client acquisition strategy is quite aggressive. So we met about 9 months ago at one of the conferences in Malaysia. He was a very modest guy, when you look at him, okay, whatever, who's this guy, right? He didn't let go. I mean, I kind of tried to ignore him, but he kept coming at me at different places. Finally, we sat down, had a chat, and then I thought that he's got skills and strengths that are completely different to mine, and I needed them to achieve the unicorn status. Not just that. Before that, I identified about 20 companies. Just to be, just an interesting fact. When you're on LinkedIn and when you're in the Web3 space, there are lots of tech enablers in the market, right? Lots. India, I get at least about 3 inquiries or 3 messages from India. I get a lot of messages from Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia. A lot of tech developers in the blockchain, Metaverse, NFT space. They reached out. So I zeroed in about 20. I spoke to about 30 of them. I got 20. Then I actually had, sort of interviews with them, had a chat, came from different angles, because when you want to establish a relationship, it's best to have it with one rather than having, 50 different wives. You just have one. So one relationship and make it strong. But that relationship, in order to foster it, I need to make sure that, the goals and missions all matched, right? And I'm quite an aggressive person in business. So I wanted a company that was equally aggressive or more aggressive, right? So I interviewed quite a few companies, shortlisted 3 companies, one from Vietnam, one from India, and InvoZone, right? So, and then again, further dove in. I met with the founders, because I always believe that the big deals are done with decision makers and founders. And I don't like to work with big companies in terms of enabling. Of course, my clients are big companies, but partnering, I don't like to work with big companies, right? So they don't have the heart in the business, and it's too big. The owner is someone else. The guy who runs it is someone else. So the Indian and Vietnamese companies came out really strong, really good. But again, I tried them out with a project. Again, execution fell through. So the CEO and the founders were really good. I really liked them, but the team let them down, right? So then with InvoZone, all the way through, whether it's the relationship, the timeliness, the timelines, the depth of knowledge, and the way they present. So every meeting that I do with the big companies, when it's a decision maker, I take in someone from InvoZone, whether it's Zain, Shariar, Abdullah, Wisha, all of these characters, one by one. I take them based on the project, right? And they really impressed, the client, myself. So anyway, so that's where we decided to sort of do a nikah with InvoBlocks and Invo Games. We're not too much into Web 2, so not too much InvoZone. So this is how we identified it. And further along, Furqan and I spent a bit of time, and he came for about 10 meetings when he was in Malaysia with my clients. And I just saw, a younger version of me. When I was around that age, I was like that, super aggressive, super confident, super smart, anything can do attitude, right? And anything can do today, right? Not tomorrow, not day after. So our kind of personalities aligned, but Furqan is very, very different to me in terms of strengths. So we have complementary strengths. So I said, why not we join hands? I'll be your exclusive Southeast Asian provider, the front end, and you be my tech enabler, and let's go to market. Let's crack the market. So since that time, I mean, we've got about 18 projects in the pipeline, right? So, and then we're working through it. And, whether it's blockchain projects, Metaverse projects, NFT projects. So we've got about 18 in the pipeline, a lot. So, so that's the relationship. And again, in every business I've had, I've done things like this, whereby I like to work with like-minded people. I like to work with the 1%, that really is successful in the world. You're not the 99% mediocre. I like the 1%, because I always believe that you get to live once, and you've got to maximize it. You should have no regrets when you're in your deathbed. So as you asked me, mate, the checklist, there's one last one to go. Inshallah, that's going to happen in 3 years. And, the biggest reason why I kind of got into bed with the Invo group is because of Furqan and his team. The team makes him look very good. He's already good, but the team makes him very good. Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And actually, I want to go back to, you mentioned that you had the salesy attitude, you had the very talkative personality, going back to when you started your career, and creativity. So with the woke thing. So what do you have in mind for the future, especially going to NASDAQ or the unicorn thing? Sorry. So regarding that creativity, what kind of things are in your mind you want to execute through the team, so that will make it the unicorn that you want it to be?
So what's important is, again, I suppose this conversation, just got to make it, I suppose, a conversation where there's a lot of learning for those who are watching.
Exactly.
So you said sales, absolutely spot on. Until I think I was in my early 30s, I was a salesman. I was a gung-ho salesman, right? Always looking at closing deals, right? But post 30, got a bit more spiritual, and started looking at things differently. I suppose I was financially free as well by the time I was 30. So, now, rather than sales, I talk about service. Even to my sales guys on my team, I always say to them, guys, always remember, you're serving your customer. You're not selling something to your customer. When you sell, you think about yourself. You think about money. When you serve, you're actually trying to fix a problem. You're delivering a solution. You're trying to make someone happy. And believe you me, when you serve someone, the money comes automatically. You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to try hard. It automatically drops on your lap. And that attitude has worked very, very well for me, right? From the age of 30 now, I'm 50 years old. So, 20 years, I've had that attitude where serve people. Don't worry about money. Money will come, because money has to come when you serve people, right? So that's that. And, what have I got for in the future? I mean, I'm hoping that, um, okay, so achieving the unicorn has two purposes. One is a personal challenge. I mean, I want to do it because, you know,
Why not?
when you played when you played amateur sports, you always want to work, you know, play for your country. You want to be the best player. You want to play for the best club, if you want to think of it that way. So that's kind of a personal thing. It's a personal challenge. But the second thing is, I also believe that there are lots of young people out there with great ideas. So if I can walk the path, right? If I can do it for myself, I will learn how to do it. Once I've learned, my mission post the unicorn status is to actually develop more unicorns, help a lot more people, help a lot more youngsters around the world to take their business to unicorn status, right? Because there's a lot of kids potential, but they're unguided, right? You know, achieving unicorn is not common. It's not, you know, it's not a regular thing. It's very unusual. So if I can learn the ways and the tricks, then I want to share it. I want to impart that into youngsters. That's my future.
And that's all over the world, not specific to a country.
No, all over the world. I always believe that, you know, the world is an oyster, right? I mean, I've lived in my lifetime, I've lived in the 12 countries. I've lived and worked in 12 countries. I ran businesses in 8 countries, right? So I don't think it's about the countries, it's about the geography, right? So, yeah, I think world is not a big place.
Now we're like kind of almost like to the mid of 2023. What do you think? I mean, you're betting big on Metaverse, as far as I've understood it. How important is it going to be in this year? Because the context of this question is like, I'm reading a book about Metaverse, and what I got from it is that it's going to take at least 10 years because of the server speeds to make it actually impactful, where people can generate some real economy out of it. So do you agree with that? And how are you planning accordingly?
Okay. Technologically speaking, you need to step out of here after this conversation and go and ask Zain or Asim, right? So how is this service, all of that? But in terms of a business, right, I don't look at it as a metaverse. I'm not in the business of metaverse. I'm in the business of solving problems using Web3, right? Whether it's metaverse, NFT, or whatever, right? So that's what I do. I suppose that's where the angle is, because everyone's talking about metaverse, including Mark, my friend Mark, who failed miserably and then said, "Oh, I think metaverse, it's too early. You know, the time is not now," right? Because he kind of failed. The word fuck up, but you can strike this later. But yeah, I mean, he fucked up, right? So because he's the legend, even when I go to presentations or when I do speeches, the first slide I have is this article about Mark Zuckerberg failing doing Horizon and the Oculus, and him quoting that metaverse is not ready. We are not ready for metaverse, right? I start with that slide. So straight away, everyone that listens to me, they go, shit, okay, so you agree? What's the story? You disagree, but you're talking about metaverse. So the big thing is, I think the people are looking at metaverse as roadblocks, right? So cases like Roblox, Decentraland, and Sandbox are very rare. It takes a lot of investment, a lot of effort to get them moving because it's based on community, right? But my business model is the other way around. I go to companies with community. So secondly, there are other companies where, as I said to your supermarket chain said to me, Khalid, every year, all my competitors, we do anniversary, and it's usually special discounts and offers. How can we be different? Then I said, let's do metaverse, right? So creating a metaverse on your own and starting from scratch and saying, oh, community, come here, I've got a gaming metaverse, is actually pushing shit uphill, if you ask me as a businessman. There's not a question of, is metaverse ready? Are we ready for the metaverse? All that I don't question, because I don't want to, and I don't understand it, right? But the question that I ask is whether metaverse will solve this company's problem and get them growth or achieve cost efficiency. Will it do? Will it do? Right? If it does, then I'm going to use it. So that's the angle that I look at. So for me, metaverse is now, bro. It's not tomorrow. It's not 10 years later. It's now. We're using it, right, to solve problems. We're using it to create a point of differentiation. We're using it as a sales tool. We're using it as a customer acquisition tool. So absolutely, metaverse is happening and it's hot right now.
If you don't mind me asking, what's your approach when you approach businesses? You know, when you're pitching a solution to them, how do you plan it? Do you prefer meeting them in person, presenting? As you said, the first slide is Mark Zuckerberg, you know, that failure slide. What's your methodology? I want to understand the thoughts behind it.
Okay. First of all, you know, for any youngster that's listening or watching, the biggest advice I would give them as a businessman, as a professional businessman, professional cricketer, the biggest advice I would give them is build a network, meaning build a network of people, right? Mm-hmm. Get to know as many people as possible, get close to them, help them so that they will help you in return. Like build your LinkedIn profile. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, right? Build your profile on LinkedIn. Get as many network as possible. And it's not bullshit. It's not people saying, Khalid, I've got 20,000 on LinkedIn. Then I say to them, how many of them are useful, right? How many of them you can call and say, hey, you know, I seen, you know, I need this. Can you do it? And they do it, right? Not many, right? So create a useful network. It's very, very important. That's number one. Once you create a network, you don't have to pitch. You don't have to sell. You don't have to lead generate. You don't have to do any of those things, right? So if you set up a company, you know, I've set up a company, for example, right? I've set up a company. What I did was my first clients are my existing friends and clients as part of my network. The whole process of selling and all that, it's irrelevant. It's not cool. It's short-lived. Build a network, right? Build a network starting today, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, or 50 years old. Start building a network. Use a social media platform like LinkedIn to build that network and keep it active. And the way to keep it active is serve the network. Serve the network. For instance, you find out that, oh, someone needs business cards. Call the friend that you got in the network that's a printer and say, hey, Furkan, this guy needs business cards. Can I put you in touch? Okay, put you in touch. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, what will do is, Khalid, thank you for recommending. Here's 10% for you. Like a referral thing, right? And I'm okay with that too. Whenever someone refers something to me, I pay them because I say to them, you know, this is how it's got to be, right? Because you're serving me, you're doing me a favor. I'd like to repay that with whatever I can, right? So that network, when you have a network, you don't have to sell, you don't have to look for customers. They're all there as part of the network. And the way to create the network is by serving. Serve, right? Help. Mm-hmm. And automatically all these people will owe you something. So tomorrow when you start a business, all you've got to do is call them and say, guys, remember me, right? Mm-hmm. I started a business, right? So that's how we got started. You know, this is how I will canvas.
I got a new business idea for you. Teaching people how to network on LinkedIn. It's gonna sell.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's a lot of people who do that. I love LinkedIn, man. That's a different topic altogether. I've gone into new markets. I've contacted billionaires through LinkedIn, right? So interesting. I've been using it since, I don't know, 12, 13 years, or maybe since it started. Okay, how do I pitch? How do I sort of, you know, how do I take a, so generally I don't pitch. What I do is I tell a story, right? A story that the customer is going to be, I like telling stories. I love telling stories. I've got 6 kids and they grew up listening to my stories, right? So when I'm going to say, for example, I'm coming to meet Furkan, I'm trying to share with him that I've got this metaverse idea, then it's all about first understanding who Furkan is, what's his pain point, what's his problem, and how what I'm offering could be a solution. And then build a story around it. Just casually talk through the story, right? And also I believe in disruptive pitches or disruptive presentations. So that's why I put a big slide with Mark Zuckerberg and his quote saying metaverse is not for now, right? If I'm talking about metaverse, that will throw people off balance. That'll say to people, what the fuck? Like, what is it? Shit. What's this guy talking about? Right? So it gets attention. So I like to get attention. I like them to remember me. And then I like to deliver what they want, what they're looking for, a solution to their problem. I want them to walk away smiling and thinking, shit, that was interesting because that's going to help me. And that guy was interesting.
Uh-huh.
He was weird. He was funny. So that's the approach.
I see. Now you're more entrenched in the Southeast Asian region. Ever wondered why not target San Francisco, the Silicon Valley, and all that culture? I mean, you're big for the unicorn thing, so why not be there among those startups and communities? Do you feel like there's a part missing, or it doesn't really matter?
So this is what I've always believed also. I try anything I've got new. I trial it where I can do it. Like if I can do it at home, I'll do it at home, right?
Okay.
So my home is Malaysia for now. So I try things at home. I build a proof of concept, a use case. Then I want to try it in Southeast Asia. Again, Southeast Asia is a place where I'm really familiar with. I've got a network, right? Strong network. Then I absolutely agree with you. We want to go to the US. We want to go to the UK. We want to go to the Middle East. Middle East is my next port of call. We're just about to establish a joint venture with a multi-billion-dollar company in Saudi and target all of GCC countries. And then when you talk about US or Europe and UK, Europe and US, I've got my brother Furkan. So
Perfect.
go together. Yeah, we're going to go together and do those markets, right? So absolutely, I agree with you. As I said, world is an oyster. And any business that wants to be a unicorn should be a world play, not just a country or a region play. And I like to travel.
Of course.
Travel on business money.
That's awesome. So we come to the end of our podcast. Anything you would like to add? We're talking to small to medium-sized startups and companies or entrepreneurs who could learn from you. So anything you would like to give to them?
Okay, being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster ride. So please remember this. If you're not willing to go on a roller coaster ride, even if you're not familiar, if you're not willing to try, if you're not willing to go on a roller coaster again and again and again, don't be an entrepreneur. Go get a job. It's as simple as that. I don't have any other wise or wisdom, but this is so important. Yes. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you must love roller coaster rides because that's what business is all about.
Perfect. Love that bit of information. Thank you so much, Khalid, for joining us. Would love to have you again. That's pretty much it. All right, Khalid. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks a lot. All the best. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.